back to the podcast, everyone. Today I'm with a very special guest, the one and only Jasmin Leigh.
What's up?
There we go. So I see you doing all these different things like vlogs, podcasting, acting, comedy, but I don't really feel like I know like your start. So how did you get started
Oh,
with any of this? Let's start from I think the first thing you did was acting, am I correct?
yes. Well, first of all, I don't know when this is going to air, but today is my 7-year anniversary in LA.
Oh,
So, for 7 years, I've actively been pursuing the profession of entertainment. I wanted to act from as long as I can remember. My mom used to like pay me to $1 to die in front of her friends because I had this like amazing dying scene. I was a thespian in high school. Um, And I also used to have like my own pretend talk show called Jazzy Jazz Says. And I used to take like a little Home Alone Walkman, recorder thing, and I would interview my family. So I guess that was my start. And I got to LA because I was actually working at Houston's in Miami, and one of my coworkers was doing acting classes. And at this point, I kind of had already just like gave up on acting. I just didn't really think that it was going to be,
mm,
a realistic dream. And I actually had went to culinary school because I said I wanted to be a celebrity chef. So I was working at Houston's as a server and doing personal chef work and stuff on the side. And she said she was going to acting classes. And I was like, oh my God, I want to go. So I went and I audited her class that she was at, but I didn't really like that class. And then I was on Craigslist and I saw an ad for another acting class,
wow.
and it wasn't a lot of money, but it was just more money than I spent in a lump sum. But I was like kind of deciding if I was gonna do it. And so I called my mother and I was like, hey, there's this acting class. You think I should do it? And she said, well, if you take the acting class, I'll pay for it. So I started taking that acting class. It was like an hour away from Miami. So I was doing that. And then how I got to LA is I actually auditioned for Hell's Kitchen. And this
Oh,
was the third time. I had already auditioned 2 other times. And this time they called me and they were like, hey, we want you to audition again. And I was so close to making the show that literally, if someone would have broken their toe, I would have taken their place.
wow.
So they had flew me out to LA to meet the producers and everything. And that was my first taste of, oh, wow, this can actually happen. And it's funny because my father said, I think you're going to end up in LA, but I don't think it's going to have anything to do with cooking. And
Mm,
so when I found out I was so close to doing Hell's Kitchen, I kind of made up in my mind that I wasn't going to come back to Miami. So I kind of like started preparing to leave and not come back because you don't find out till like a couple of weeks if you made the show. So you kind of have to, they leave you like because they don't want you to have, I guess, too much time to prepare. And so I decided that if I made the show, I was going to move to LA and I was not going to come back because they pay you enough money whether or not you make it to the end to where I could, have a good start in LA. And I didn't make the show and I was devastated. And then I found I didn't make the show in October. In November, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to move to LA anyway. And February, here I am,
wow.
7 years later. So that's how I got my start.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did it feel like in that moment though when you found out that you didn't make it? Like, is it still like
I,
fresh in your mind, or like how did that?
I was really depressed, I remember. And I didn't really
Mm,
know that it was depression that I felt, but I just was like, I was in Miami. I had a great job. I loved my job serving. I got to meet so many different people. I made really good money, the most money I had ever made, to where it gave me the flexibility to even do personal chef stuff. But I just all I did in Miami was work and party, party work. And I remember I was just like, what am I doing with my life? Like, what am I doing? I was always, I always had like smart, quote unquote, friends. It's like all of my friends, like, they were either went the corporate, well, at this point, mostly everybody had went the corporate route. So they were like,
mm,
doing well in their professions. And I'm just still kind of like hanging around. And it's like, I'm known as a party girl. So everyone's just like, oh, you're just partying. That's what you do. And I'm like, I don't know if that's really just what I want to do. And just had a talk with myself and I was just like, you know what? You're going to move to LA. And I really, really, really thank my mother because I actually got really nervous about moving to LA because my friend that was supposed to move with me, he was like kind of flaking. And I was just going to go back to New York, where I'm originally from. And I was like, oh, I'll
Wow.
just pursue it in New York. And my mom was like, I don't think you're going to put in the same hustle if you go to New York. You know, your family's there. You have a fallback system. It's not going to be, and she's like, and you're not going to be out in the cold going to auditions and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, you're right. So she pushed me and I went to LA. But yeah,
Oh
that feeling, it really sucks. Especially watching the season and then like that should have been me, or
yeah.
who took my spot? And really it's not your spot, because if it was your spot, I would have
Yes.
had it.
I have one of my guests from Seattle. He made it to the auditions to the Rhythm and Flow competition for
Hmm.
Netflix. And he's like, that should have been me. I made it to the auditions, but didn't make it to the final cut. So seeing like that stuff like still progress, even if you're not on the show, you're like, it was.
Yeah.
It's like the world should have ended because I'm not on that show,
I
but it's
know,
still
I
fucking
know.
going.
Like no one should be on the show. The show's canceled, whatever. You know, because it was this other show, I think it was called Euphoria. It was
Oh,
a reality show, and that show got canceled, but I was about to be on that show too.
mm,
Yeah, like I think I was already in LA. I was already in LA for that or whatever. But I was gonna be one of the replacements, and then they canceled the show. So it's just like, damn.
mm,
So it's like close but not close enough.
yeah. What brought you to Miami from New York?
Oh no, I went to New York and then my mom moved to Florida. So I went to high
Oh,
school and college in Tallahassee. And then I was originally going to move to Atlanta, but I just needed to get out of Tallahassee. My best friends at the time, they had both had children. And it was kind of the same reason of how I left Miami. Like, what am I doing here? I'm stagnant in Tallahassee. I don't like it. It's really nothing to do after college unless you're, working for the Capitol or whatever. So my uncle lived in Miami, and I just called him up and I was like, hey, can I come live with you? And he said yes. And I left 2 weeks later and stayed with him for 6 months until I got on my feet, and then moved closer into the beach.
damn. Fucking having a family support system is so important. Like,
What? Yes, it is. And I'm so happy I have such a big family. And I have family members. I have family members pretty much everywhere but here.
oh
I
man.
have a cousin that's here, but I moved here before him. But family support, I mean, people that make it without it are really just super, super strong, because sometimes you just got to have that push when you're doubting yourself, or friends, you just sometimes when you're like, oh, I want to take the easy way, you need to really have that person that's not going to be a yes man. And I can be like, yeah, let's take the easy way. And it's going to be like, no, I think you can put a little bit more effort and get what you really want.
Mm-hmm. And it's kind of cool. You've been in like three New York, Miami, LA. Those are three completely different like media scenes too. So you probably learned
Completely different.
about media, huh?
Yeah. Actually, originally my major was in journalism.
Oh shit.
I was a PR major, and my uncle was like, "You're not gonna be able to do anything with PR. You need to change your major." And for some reason, I listened to him and changed to political science, concentration in pre-law. So I was gonna go to law school, and but I my freshman year, I remember all, like, because you have to take the prerequisites, so you're kind of taking, public speaking, all of that good stuff. And I just always loved media. Like, I was on the newspaper when I was in middle school, and also my middle school had like a they had their own news team, which I was
Mm.
so mad that I came to that school late because I wasn't allowed to be a part of it, because they already had their people in place. But I've always wanted to be on screen. Like, that's just what I've always wanted to do.
Hell yeah. So you said you went to college in Miami also then?
No,
Or
I went to college in Tallahassee, FAMU.
okay, got it. And
Hmm.
that's all in Florida. I think I've been to Florida
It's
like
all in
once
Florida,
though.
but Miami is so much different than Tallahassee. Like,
Oh shit.
it's understandable that people don't know, because people like my New York family be like, "Oh, I'm in Florida," and I'm like, "Where?" Miami. That's 8 hours away. That you're not
Oh
anywhere
shit.
near me. Yeah,
It's a big state, huh?
huge difference. And when my mother said we were moving to Florida, I thought beaches, palm trees, and Tallahassee is not that
Wow,
at all.
wow.
Yeah.
So what did you learn about yourself through like going to like these different states? Like you probably learned something from New York, something from Florida, something from LA now. Are there little things you've
Um,
learned from each?
well, from New York, I definitely got my no nonsense attitude. I'm a go getter. I'm a hustler. I don't take no for an answer. Um, and I have a good talk piece. I can talk my way into a lot of things. It's been a lot of situations I've been in when I had no idea what the fuck I was. Oh, I'm sorry. Can I curse on here?
Of course, yes.
Okay, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing, but I figured it out, and that's that New York mentality. You just get it's sink or swim. And Florida, I would say I learned more. I'll say Tallahassee and Miami, I'll separate it. In Tallahassee, I learned how to, somewhat of Southern hospitality. So it's like I was already kind of like a New Yorker by heart, had New Yorker parents, but they definitely taught me a little bit more about hospitality, learned how to dance in Florida.
Oh yes.
And I really love Tallahassee for that. And in Miami, I learned how to be an adult because even though I got kicked out at 17, so I was living on my own,
Wow.
my my parents were still down the street. When I moved to Miami, that's when I really had to like grow up because it's like it's a dog eat dog world out there, especially in the hospitality industry. So you just kind of you learn to survive. You learn to survive. In LA, I've learned how to be myself. I learned how to be free. I learned how to not care what anyone has to say about me. I learned to just fully embrace Jasmine. And from the outside looking in, it already seems as if I was like fully embracing myself just because my personality is still so much more extra than other people's. People didn't realize, all the insecurities I had or all the times I was holding back. But once I got to LA, I was like, this is for me.
Hmm.
This is for me. I remember the first time I partied in West Hollywood and I couldn't drink because I was driving and
Oh
I
yeah.
don't believe in
Good job. Good
drinking and
job.
driving. And I just had so much fun sober. I had so much fun
Yes.
sober. I ended up dancing on the street with some random person. Someone came up to me and was like, "Oh my God, you guys are so talented." And I'm not a dancer. We're just fooling around. But, someone on vacation, they're just like starstruck. And I remember I was like, this is the place for me. This is the place I can be loud. I can wear what I want to wear. I can just be extra. And it's not looked at like people are not turning their noses up at me. So I love LA the best.
Hell yeah. Is
Yeah.
it the culture or is it the people or is it a mix of everything that you like?
It's definitely the culture. Um, the people, most of the people I hang out with are not from LA. They're from Florida. Most of them are from Florida, actually. And yeah, most of them are from Florida. But I don't know. It's just something about the air that just makes you feel free.
Mm.
Like it just, I don't know how to explain it. It just opened me up. And it just pulled things out of me that I was just, and maybe it also might have been a little bit of nobody knew me,
Right.
so I could completely recreate myself. And instead of recreating, I just found, okay, this is what I like to do. And then just being out here more and more, it's just I'm just finding myself every day. It's like I find something else that I love. I find something else that I'm like, oh, well, fuck you if you care about that. And it's just amazing out here.
Hell yeah. What do you feel about COVID in Florida?
I went to Florida to visit my mom, and it was giving me anxiety a little bit because I was pregnant during quarantine. I mean, during when COVID started, so I like fully quarantined. I didn't leave the house for a minute,
Mm.
at least 6 months, and then I remember I flew to Atlanta, like in uh, I think June. But other than that, I had just been home, and so I went to Florida for Thanksgiving, and we went to the mall, which I hadn't been in an inside mall, and it was just so many people. Thank
Wow.
God most people were wearing their masks, but it was just like, oh my God, is there not a pandemic? Like what's going on? But then the next time when I went out of town, I went to Atlanta like a month ago, and I found myself being lax too. Like I
Mm.
was so nervous once I got home because while I was there, I was going out to eat. It just felt good to be free. And I still wore my mask, but I went out to eat like almost every day. And I don't know what I was thinking about my pockets and about my health, but
Yeah.
we made it. I took my test when I got back, quarantine, and I was good. So
Are you hopeful that COVID will end anytime soon, or
Of course, I'm ready to get out the house. I'm
yeah.
ready. My daughter's getting to an age where now, she can take a bottle and go chill with somebody. I'm ready to get back on the comedy stages. I just need to release. Like, not being on stage is like one of the hardest things. It's been almost a year. In March it'll be a year. Actually, it's been a year now, because I stopped doing shows. I think, like, I didn't do shows like the month of February because I was starting a show and I wasn't really ready to tell anyone I was pregnant yet. And
Mm-hmm.
then in March, I had a show where I was gonna announce my pregnancy through comedy, and it was canceled. So it's been a year since I've been on stage.
Mm-hmm.
The longest I had not been on stage before that was maybe a week.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
definitely feel that. Like, I have like multiple studios like around the Seattle area, and they've all been closed during the pandemic. So like, I've been just recording in my fucking guest room, and it looks. I just all you need is like a wall and a corner, basically. But it's definitely I prefer doing things in person and being at the
Of
studio.
course.
It's,
Hmm.
but I definitely feel like people that like are in media in whatever shape or form, they kind of had like the inside scoop about COVID before people, just the normal person. Like, of course, people were surprised about COVID canceling tours and stuff like that. But I feel like people I know, at least, they kind of like they accepted it a little faster than people who are not associated
Yeah,
with media and have to
for
be around
sure.
people.
For sure. I agree. My mom actually told me about COVID, I want to say December.
Mm,
And she was like, "Oh, watch where you're going." I'm like, and I was so ignorant. I was like, "Oh, I can't eat sushi anyway." That's what I said to her. And I was just like, "Oh my God, how ignorant can you fucking be?" But yeah, and then I remember, like, when we filmed in January-ish, February, like, we were like, people were talking about it, because I remember I asked for my separate fruit and stuff like that. I didn't really want to deal with that. And people probably just saw us being a diva because they didn't know that I was pregnant yet. But
mm,
yeah, we shut down right away. Especially LA. LA was not playing any games. But it was cute at first because we were like, oh, whatever, 2 weeks. And then 2 weeks
yeah.
turned into a month. And then a month turned into 2 months, and then 6 months. And it'll be a year in a month.
Yeah. You know what's crazy
Crazy.
though? The first case of COVID in the United States happened in my county.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep. I remember my mom was like, it's in this state now. It's in this state now. It's in LA. Watch out. I'm just like, it hit us like crazy. It's just frustrating because we could have been out of lockdown if it would have been handled totally differently. But
Yeah.
no need living in what ifs.
Yeah. I feel like everyone at this point has gone through every single emotion with COVID at this point though.
Yes, now we're at acceptance.
Yeah, it's a mess. So I've heard you've been doing Zoom shows though. Like, how do you
Yes.
feel about that? Do you think it's even remotely worth it?
It's definitely worth it. And I feel better every time I do a Zoom show. Not gonna lie. But I would much rather have the people. It's the adrenaline rush of you walking on the stage, grabbing the mic, talking your shit, and hearing the audience laugh, and having like, I'm used to talking to people literally like every night. If I didn't have a book show, I was doing an open mic. Like,
Mm,
I was on stage like every night, pretty much. So it sucks, but at least you get to get your jokes out there. You get to tell your stories, because I'm sure my friends are tired of me trying to slip jokes into our conversation. It's like, you already said that, and I'm like, I need a release. So
mm,
the Zoom shows are different, but I don't mind them.
right. Adorable. You want to introduce her?
Oh, this is Marco Lee. She'll be 6 months next week,
Oh my gosh, I love her
and she
hair.
loves the camera.
She's smiling. Oh my gosh. So we covered how you got into acting, how did and cooking, but how did you get into comedy?
Okay, so I was actually working at Comedy. I was working at Comedy Union as a server, and Comedy Union's a black-owned comedy club out here. And so I was working every night, and I'm just looking at the comics. I'm just like, wow, I think I could do this. And then I reached out to one of the comedians I saw perform every night, and I told him I was interested. And he actually like sat down with me for like 2 hours going over the fundamentals of comedy. And then I still didn't do anything. And then I remember I was doing like background and audience work and stuff like that. But I was doing a promo for the Queen Latifah talk show. And I told them I had to leave by a certain time because I had to go to work. And they asked me where I worked, and I said Comedy Union. And they just assumed it was a comedy show because they were like, oh, you're so funny. We should have known you were a comic. And I was like, oh, no, I'm not a comic. I'm just a server. And then the producer, he was like, I dare you to get on stage by June such and such. And I missed the dare, but I did get up there in January. And so it definitely, I kept the dare in the back of my head, even though I was not ready. When he actually dared me, I was like, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it. And it was actually a little bit harder because I already knew so many comics or whatever. I feel like if I didn't know anybody, it would have been a lot easier. And when I got up on stage, I was like, oh, I love this. I want this feeling every single night. And, you know, I started focusing more on comedy for a bit than acting, and until I could find like a balance. But I absolutely love stand up. And the fact of that I did improv and that I have acting skills gave me that stage presence. So, you know, it all works together.
And how long you been doing comedy now?
6 years.
Oh, wow.
Yep, 6 years as of January 26th.
What's your favorite, the first memory that comes to mind that's like your favorite comedy memory? Doing a show
I
or?
would say my first show. It was at the Comedy Store, which I didn't even know how big of a deal it was. It
Wow.
was a bringer show, which means you have to guarantee a certain amount of audience members to come to the show. And I remember it was this old white couple sitting in the middle, and I was like, "Oh my God, they're gonna hate my jokes. My jokes are full of sex, and just they're just gonna be like, oh my goodness, get this girl off stage." And I remember I got on and I started my set, and they were laughing like the hardest out of everybody. And so that was one of my favorite moments. I loved it.
Hell yeah. What are your opinions of the Comedy Store now? I know, like, I listen to like, Joe Rogan all the time, and he's bringing all his friends to like Texas and all
Everyone's in
that.
Austin. I don't know what the Comedy Store is gonna do. I'm hoping that they make it through the storm. I love the Comedy Store. I met some of my best friends there. I'm literally there every night. It's like family there. It's like my cheers. So hopefully they push through. They haven't really been doing any online shows like Laugh Factory has, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping it comes together. And I really hope that people start to come back to LA because there are a lot of heavy hitters that are in Austin right now. But I love
Yeah.
LA so much. I don't want to leave. I feel like everything will migrate back here.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because you do podcasting too, as well as being a comedian, like, do you feel like you tap more into like one artistry more than another? Like, are you focusing more on like the comedians and what they're doing? Or are you focusing more on like the rappers and what the music scene's doing when it comes to COVID?
I actually my focus is still on comedy and acting. Um I definitely I don't really yeah, I've learned as I went along for podcasting or whatever. So, and then as I do, you know, other interviews with other people, I'll take like certain tips or something here and there. But my focus is still comedy and acting. I absolutely love hosting, and I would love doing, hosting game shows. I love hosting award shows. I'd love to do all of that, but that can, you know, lead me into acting. That'd be great. Terrence J, that's how he got his start. He started off doing 106 in Park and then put his foot into acting. And I feel like as long as you have the skill, it doesn't really matter what thing gets you there, as long as you know you have the skill to back it up.
Hell yeah. And it
Yeah,
seems like you got that support system, and it seems like you're pretty good at making connections. So
networking. Thank you, FAMU. They definitely taught me the art of networking, and I'm not afraid to hear no. I feel like that's what separates me from so many people, as I said earlier, is that I will ask what I want to ask, and if you tell me no, I'm just like, oh, you know, it might be a little awkward for a second, but you know, you might say yes, and then I'm like, all right, cool.
hell yeah. I think of it as their loss, not mine.
It is their loss. It is
Yeah.
exactly their loss.
Because there's people like when they hear a no, though, it's crippling for them. And then,
Mm-hmm.
but you got to be resilient.
Yep.
So how'd you get into podcasting?
Actually, I met Talib through technically Jeff Ross. Yeah,
Okay.
Jeff Ross. And he just said he was interested in starting a podcast and he was looking for a woman co-host. And I was like, sure, I'd of course be interested. Like, thank you. And we just started from there. And here I
Wow.
am, almost 2 years later. It'll be 2 years
Wow.
in May
So you must have
on
given
this
a
wild ride.
really good impression then. That's insane.
I'm just always myself. I'm always myself no matter what. And, people are drawn to that, especially in LA when there's so many people trying to be someone else. Genuine people are always, people always want to be around genuine people. And I feel like I'm a genuine person.
Hell yeah. Did you know much about podcasting before starting your podcast?
Nope. Nope. I didn't.
Wow.
Truly did not. Now I was doing my Jasmine's World show, which wasn't a podcast. It was like a talk show, kind of like late night show meets Ellen. And I did do Jeff Ross podcast quite a few times, but I never did my own thing.
Hmm. So when it
Hmm.
comes to comedy and acting, is it more about getting the right gigs or knowing the right people? I feel like,
I think it's a little bit of both. You definitely you a lot of things in entertainment are word of mouth. So if if they're gonna keep pushing their friends or they're gonna keep pushing people that they've already worked with. So it's very hard to get into the door. Once you get into the door, it's a little, it never gets easy. But if you get into the door and you show that you have the talent, then people want to work with you, then you're gonna get things. Um, my acting career has still not taken off as much as I would want it to, but I feel like as I'm focusing on podcasting, like I said, I'll get into the door to do that. But one thing I'll definitely say is you just want to make sure that you make good connections with people, that you're nice to everybody, you're a genuine person, because a lot of everybody has talent, but you don't want to work with everybody.
hmm. So is podcasting more of something you think of as like a side thing, or do you feel like, are you are you trying to figure out which medium you want to focus on completely, or do you like just being a jack of all trades?
I love being a Jane of all trades, and
Jane
but
of all
my
trades.
focus is on podcasting right now and on building my brand through finally getting my vlogs out there, doing YouTube videos. Um, the sketches and stuff, I tried that, but it's not fully for me. I feel like I would like to just if before I get on like actual acting gigs, I'd rather just showcase my life because I do feel like that I inspire people and I love being an inspiration. I love sharing any gems that I've learned. So right now podcasting and my YouTube channel are my focus.
Hell yeah. So the podcast is part of like a company or something, right? Like how
Uprocks, yes.
okay, cool. So how much do you have a say in the podcast versus Talib versus like management? Like is it solely your guys and they just distribute it, or how does that all work?
It's Talib's podcast. And I Uprock it, I'm not really sure how that even goes. But it's Talib's podcast. I do get say so and what I'm asking, or if they haven't really asked anything crazy of me. If I do think a guest is right, I can say, hey, maybe we could try this guest.
Mm,
Maybe we could try this guest, or maybe we could try that guest, or whatever. So my voice does get heard, but at the end of the day, it is Talib's podcast.
right. Do you feel like when I listen to the podcast, it seems like you're more focused on like doing the research on the questions and just asking straight questions versus it seems like he's more able to express like how he feels about a certain thing and like geek out more. Like, do you feel like you have less of a voice versus when you're doing like a vlog or your own podcast even?
Of course, I will have less of a voice when I'm doing a vlog because um it's his podcast and I'm his backup. When
Mm,
it's me doing my vlogs, it's all about me. So that's one thing I have also learned doing People's Party is to play the back seat because typically anything that I do, I need to be the lead. It needs to be all about me. And I'm learning to be able to work with people. I'm learning to be the supporter, the supporting actress in a sense instead of the lead actress. So it teaches me every day but yeah, so that is yeah. Hmm.
have you been able to build up some pretty cool connections though, or is it more like
Yes.
he's bringing on his friends that he knows in the industry, and you're just talking to him, or like, because that's a pretty. You've been having some. You guys have some heavy hitters on the podcast. I'm like,
Yes,
holy
we
shit.
do. Everybody you're not going to connect with, but the people that I have connected with, I've gotten tons of numbers I probably would have never gotten, or I wouldn't have gotten as soon. And I try to just it's it's very funny when it comes to celebrities, because the first step is getting the number, the second step is getting them to respond back to you. So you got to kind of be real strategic on what you're texting, because
Mm,
you got to build a relationship before you start asking, like, say, advice or for favors or anything like that. So I'm really good at knowing like what to ask so that I can get a text message back or things of that nature. So I definitely have gotten a lot of connections through the podcast. I also got to work the red carpet for the Warner Music Group
mm.
pre Grammy show, and
Oh
so
shit.
that's something that I definitely want to do more of. That was right before COVID hit, so I probably would have been doing more red carpets had COVID not kicked us out of red carpets. But yeah, definitely, it's definitely very beneficial to be on the show,
Mm,
and I'm learning so much. Is I'm learning as I go instead of having to go to school and learn these same practices.
exactly. So what things have you learned about like podcasting specifically? Do you like know like how to reach out to specific guests now, or like how to create your own podcast? Like what are some
Well, I kind of already knew how to reach out to guests because I was doing my Jasmine's World talk show for a year and
Mhm.
a half. But I'm just better interviewing skills. Just I read the comments, and even though sometimes they're not so mean anymore, but they were like mean, like, what is this girl doing here? Blah blah blah.
Mm.
But like I've learned to, when you're doing an interview, the interview is about them. Let the guests talk. Listen for understanding. Don't just listen to ask your next question, and just to make sure you engage with people.
Mhm. Who's your favorite guest you've had on the show?
Lil Kim for sure.
Oh shit, hell yeah.
For sure, because I absolutely love Lil Kim. I was obsessed with Lil Kim, even though little girls really shouldn't be. But her she had a lot of commercial hits, so they were edited. They were edited or whatever. So I really okay. Give me a second. I really loved interviewing her. Okay. Yeah, I really loved interviewing Lil Kim. And then a fun thing that happened with that, I had just did her song in karaoke, like literally that Monday.
Oh
And
gosh.
so I showed her the video of me doing her verse with Lady Marmalade. And that was so cool because she watched it and she was like, oh my God, send that to me, and followed me on Instagram. It was just like
Oh
fangirling out. Like I was just like, oh my God, I cannot believe this. I do Lil Kim on karaoke all the time.
hell
And
yeah.
one of my favorite songs to this date is still Crush on You, her verse. So, and that's like, if they put a gun to your head and tell you to rap a verse, I can do that verse. So,
Hell
and I
yeah.
also really like Jadakiss because I got to rap on that show.
Oh,
So that was awesome too.
I love Jada Kiss so much. He's like one of my
Yeah.
favorite rappers of all time. That little wheezing thing he does.
Yes. Yes. I love Jadakiss. He was great.
And that's crazy. You guys got Macklemore. He doesn't really do that much press. So the
Oh,
fact that,
okay. I didn't realize. It's a
yeah.
lot. Now that's a good thing about virtual shoots. We are able to get a lot more people that we may not have gotten because we would have had to, fly them in and everything. So
Hmm.
that's awesome. But other than that, I'd still rather be in the studio.
Hell yeah. Have you guys flown in guests before?
I believe that Talib has flown in guests.
That
Yeah.
is awesome. Hell yeah.
Hmm.
Damn. Yeah, that's because I was solely like what I would do like before the pandemic. I would like if a lot of artists like to come to like to Seattle to perform. So I'd be going to the
Hmm.
concerts to interview them, but like Zoom has definitely opened up a lot of different doors because
Yes.
so
Yes,
many
it
people
has.
are just at home so they can do things like this.
Yep.
So what has it been like to like raise a family during this pandemic? It's a nerve
It's
wracking.
crazy. It's definitely crazy. Mainly because I'm home having to, juggle so many things with the newborn. But it's fulfilling.
Hmm.
It is very fulfilling. I love my daughter. I love that she looks just like me. And I love that she's always smiling. Like she wakes up and she'll be like, and I'm just
Oh
like,
my
oh, let's
gosh.
start the day. She just puts me in a better mood. She's just amazing.
Are you gonna push like acting and stuff on her when she
Oh
gets older?
yeah, until she can tell me that she doesn't want to. I'm
Hell yeah.
looking for an agent for her right now. So
Oh
right as
wow.
we speak, I just started submitting her. And yeah, once I mean, she's not gonna have to do it as like a job,
Hmm.
like to pay our bills or anything. But hopefully she likes it. If she doesn't like it, then we just won't do it. But if she likes it, then I mean, I wanted to live in LA and be a child actor, so we're gonna try it out and see. But I won't force her. I won't be a crazy momager.
For sure. Momager. I've never heard of that. That's hilarious.
You haven't heard? Yes, momager.
That makes so much sense. And it seems like a lot of like media outlets are pretty excited for you too. Like I just saw that you did the Fatherhood podcast even.
Oh, that was so much fun. That was super fun. Yeah.
I didn't even know they had a second podcast to do
I
that.
didn't either. I actually was just he watches People's Party
Hmm.
and he started following me on Instagram. And I think he had said something about the podcast, and I was like, yes, I can't wait till I'm like famous enough to do drink champs. And he was like, well, in the meantime, we have this fatherhood podcast and we have women on there. Sometimes I was like, oh my God, I would absolutely love it. It was so much fun. I can't
Yeah.
wait to do it again.
It was crazy because you that's just a perspective you would never have gotten from those guys.
Mm-hmm.
They were so into it too. It was
Yep. Yes, they were. It was really, really good.
yeah. What is that thing? Like I've heard like stereotypes about like the I don't even know if it's a stereotype, but like for like drink champs, it seems like they purposely don't have the greatest audio. Have you noticed that?
Oh, I don't know. I don't know if they do that on purpose.
It's
I
weird
don't
because they
think
have
I've noticed that.
like the craziest guests, but it always sounds like their audio is a little fuzzy. I'm like, what the heck? But it seems like they have a great ass time on there though.
Yeah, I bet. I can't wait till I can be on that show.
Yeah, hell yeah. So what are your goals for 2021?
My goals for 2021 is just to continue building my brand, um, get more hosting gigs when the world opens back up. I'm working on a couple of pilots to shop with a group of my friends. Um, my vlogs, getting those out, and yeah, those are my goals.
Hell yeah.
Just
So
going harder than I did last year. Well, that won't be so hard because 2020 was a dud, but
yeah.
going hard and getting our podcast like number one. I would love for us to like do some touring with the podcast. That would be super fun. So,
Yeah, you guys have some amazing guests on. Like I feel like some podcasts, once you like step back and look, a lot of podcasts have a lot of the same guests, but you guys have very unique guests that aren't doing tons of media. So it's awesome that you
hmm
get to have those people on.
yes, that's the perks of Talib being friends with a lot of people because they feel more comfortable coming on because it's like, oh, I'm talking to my homeboy.
Hmm. Did you ever listen to his music beforehand?
Oh yes, I did.
He's a legend.
hmm That's why I was so excited because I texted my mom. I was like, "Ma, Talib Kweli asked me to be on a podcast." She was like, "What? Shut up!" I was like, "Yeah, I know."
Wow.
hmm
That's crazy. Well, Jasmin Leigh, what is some advice that you have for up and coming artists, creators, influencers?
Make your own table, build it from scratch, and then invite other people to sit with you. And just do not give up. If you put in the hard work, it will come no matter what. I've been out here 7 years, and most people don't do anything before 10. And I'm already on a very popular podcast. I've already have a lot of stuff under my belt. So if I could do it, you can do it. Do not give up.
Hell yeah. Your career is just gonna keep going up from here. I'm excited to see it
I'm
too.
excited. I'm excited.
Hell yeah. And what is the easiest way for people to reach you?
You can. I'll just give out my phone number by accident. Mommy brain. Call 555. You can reach me on all social media platforms at Real Jasmin Leigh, JasminLeigh. You can go to my YouTube channel. It's called Jasmine's World, and my website www.jasminleigh.com.
There we go. This is the NAST podcast with
Jasmin Leigh.
hell yeah.